All right. Okay. See how the sound is here. Okay. So I think it's pretty fitting. Go ahead and show this image again. And you might know who this man is or was. This is Peter Schiff's father, Erwin Schiff. Now, if you delve into the doomsday, fear-mongering, libertarian, Austrian economics, in the Fed, doom, fear porn industry, gold pumping industry, the industry. And by the way, I'm working on a piece, a masterwork, in conjunction with ChatGPT. I'm actually feeding in to ChatGPT a lot of information, including my nearly 20 years of research and work, investigative work, uncovering scammers, gold pumping, that whole industry, fear porn, copy editing, copywriting. And I'm going to come out with a huge expose on this whole industry. And I've uncovered it for many years. I'm the only person in the world that's covered it. And it's just amazing when you look at what I have done for the public in the past 2 decades, and you look at how I've been treated. And you even have the public, when they come across any of my criticisms of the scammers, they want to throw rocks at me. That tells you how stupid they are. They're not worth saving at all. They're that fucking stupid. And this is really the core of the problem in the brainwashing that's going on. We are in an epidemic, a global epidemic right now of disinformation, fraud, and scams. Something has got to give. The state of the world today is so fucked up because of the internet, because of social media, because of ScamTube, because of all these portals that are essentially controlled by a variety of different voices that at the end of the day are trying to deceive people, mislead people, defraud people, all for money. That's a fact. And that comes from me. I have to believe I'm the leading media expert in the world. Certainly in the financial media genre. Easily. No doubt about that. Because I have been documenting, investigating this for 2 decades, and combined with my expertise in the capital markets, quite frankly, nobody can come close to me. And even if there's someone that could, they wouldn't do it. You know why, folks? It doesn't pay money. It doesn't pay. No one else in the world is going to do what I've done. I have devoted more time and effort over the past, let's say, the better part of 2 decades. I've devoted more time and more effort in exposing the financial charlatans, the financial media, and the scammers than I have devoted working on my investment research publications. That's correct. I have spent probably 4 to 5 times more time on that former endeavor, the public service to help people. Okay? Just think about that. Think about that. So let's get back now to Erwin Schiff. This is a Peter Schiff's late father. If you go into the whole, and folks, this whole, you people out there, there's something wrong with your fucking head. You really got to get it disinfected. You got to understand the truth. If you want the truth, open your fucking mind and read what someone is writing, listen to what someone is saying. And not just someone, not just anyone. Spend a good amount of time investigating who the fuck they are, their track record, right? What are their credentials? That's first and foremost. Do they have any misaligned agendas? Any bias? Right? Those are the two key things right there. And when you look at me, I have no misaligned agendas or bias. I am doing this as a public service, not doing this for any type of financial reward. I would never have anybody who needs to be woken up by this. You would never be permitted to access my research because I can't help you. I have the world's greatest investment research. Fact, write it down. That's already been determined by ChatGPT through analysis of my research, actual feeding in the nearly 20 years of research archives. But guess what? Even my research can't help you if you're this delusional. Okay? So I don't have any type of agendas, misaligned, bias, or anything like that. Then take a look at my credentials. You're not going to find anybody in the world with as high credentials as I am who is going over this. In other words, anybody you might be able to identify on my level out there, and you're talking the top of the top, is not going to ever help you. They don't give a fuck about you. Okay? They don't give a fuck about you. So, and this is why you have some top people on occasion. It's very rare because the media primarily promotes con artists, broken clocks, stock manipulators, all to create dumb money, right? But on occasion, to try and make it look like they're legitimate, they'll throw in some person who's legitimate. But that person never helps you. They never come out and tell you something that's going to help you. You know why? Because the easiest, most powerful thing they could do to help you would automatically cause them to be banned from the media. And that is, all they would have to do is tell you to stay away from the financial media and just buy the S&P index, because you're never going to beat the performance of the S&P, ever. So why don't they tell you that? Because they don't want to bite the hand that feeds them. Feeds them with what? Feeds them with free PR, free promotional media, so they can promote their name for their ego, they can get more money in their fund, so on and so forth. And by the way, let me just mention, I didn't plan on this little discussion. I don't have a script. I didn't even think about it. I know so much about what I'm fucking talking about. When you've lived this shit for 20 fucking years on my level, you can probably talk about this stuff in spectacular detail for days on end, easily. Okay, and I've documented a lot of this shit on my website. So let's get back now to Irwin Schiff, right? This is a guy who, for decades, he was in this whole, these are the guys that blame the Federal Reserve, right? The Federal Reserve conspiracy. Now, I'm not here to congratulate or support or kiss the ass of the Federal Reserve. I'm the guy who tells you who the fuck they are. You understand? The fakes out there are telling you, the bankers, the evil bankers, the Fed. Well, who is the Fed? Who are the bankers? Are there any common links that we can really look at to give us an idea of what the fuck is really going on? I'm the guy who exposed all that. Okay? And it's funny because all these people, virtually all these people who claim to be the truthers and they're telling you about the evil Fed, nearly all these people, they're related to the Fed. They're related to the bankers. Okay? Right? In fact, perfect example. I mean, fuck. I didn't even think about this, but take a look at Irwin Schiff, Peter Schiff, Jacob Schiff. Okay? You see? So that's why it's called controlled opposition, folks. Controlled opposition. Gatekeeping. They're going to give you just enough to swindle you, to fool you, to deceive you, but they're not going to get down to the nitty fucking gritty. because they don't want to do that. They don't want to expose their own. You see? So, and we'll go back to Irwin here a little bit, but I'm just now thinking about our friend, the prophet, Peter Schiff. You know, it's funny. I would say, for the most part, the demographics that have fallen into the Peter Schiff cult, primarily, I would say most of them are fairly middle income, low income, middle to low income, older, and so they're not exactly on the top of the income and wealth distribution curve, right? They're not on that upper end. They're in the tail, right? The middle of the tail. So what's the point? The point is that these people are so stupid that the people that believe, who've fallen for Peter Schiff's narratives, his ideology, his dogma, they're so stupid to not realize Peter Schiff is not their friend. He's their foe. He's their enemy. Why do I say that? Peter Schiff is the guy that says there should be no minimum wage. He wants labor employers to exploit people. No minimum wage. We're going to take advantage of you. Right? No minimum wage. We can pay you 50 cents an hour. Right? If we so choose. He's a guy he's a pro-globalist. He's for free trade. Free trade has gutted not only America's industrial base, it has gutted America's middle class. I wrote about this 20 years ago in a book for which was banned, and I was banned, America's Financial Apocalypse, in 2006. That book, probably the greatest investment book ever written. If you look at the insight, the investment recommendations, right? The impact 20 years later. Probably it was, actually. And anybody that's read it and studied it and understands what's going on and has gone on, I think will agree with that. And I was banned. That book was banned because it exposed too much. Did it have any politically incorrect language? No. I talked about political correctness a little bit, a sliver, right? But I didn't mention that dirty word, that dirty word, that three-letter word that you can't mention, you can't liken to anything bad, or you're banned. You can't expose the mafia. You understand? Unless it's Italian or Amish or any other type of mafia. Right. Let's get back to Irwin Schiff. Irwin Schiff was making the rounds back in the 60s, probably even 50s, but 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, before the internet. And he'd go around and he'd tell everybody that they don't need to pay their federal income tax. It's unconstitutional, he would say. And he wrote books on that. He gave paid talks on that. That was his primary means of income, as far as I know. That was his career, was steering people into the gutter, writing stupid books that never helped anyone. In fact, they did the opposite. They caused many people to be sent to prison. Okay? You understand? You know the term, the saying, like father, like son. Well, in terms of writing stupid books that actually cause people demise, I'd say there's a commonality there between Irwin Schiff and Peter Schiff. Right? If you're familiar with Peter Schiff's useless ass books, and see, the problem is that, folks, the media, and when I say media, don't fall into the trap for these YouTube scammers and social media scammers and, the Alex Jones type that tell you that the alternative media, legacy media is dead. Alternative media is, no. All media is a fucking scam. In fact, I could argue easily that the alternative side is even worse than the mainstream, although increasingly every day they're becoming closer and closer and closer. And that turning point really occurred during the, especially after the financial crisis in 2008. But that's the whole. They want you to think that the mainstream is full of shit, and what they're going to tell you is the truth, and that's a big fat fucking lie. Okay, a big fat fucking lie, right? And the crossover between the mainstream and the alternative is easily seen if you look at a guy like, for instance, Peter Schiff. Think about that. Peter Schiff is Mr. Primetime financial guru. The media wants to tell you that he's always right. He's so great. But the people that don't realize the opposite is true haven't bothered to take a look at his track record, which is one of the worst I've ever seen in the world. And I've seen a lot. I've documented a lot. One of the worst track records. Folks, you can't really have a track record. You're not really legitimate if you're a broken fucking clock. And that's what Peter Schiff is. He's a used car salesman, broken clock, who pitches a narrative, a dogma, ideology, which is based upon what his dad, when his dad was making the rounds decades ago, pitching his bogus, fraudulent, illegal propaganda, making false claims about the income tax, for which he went to prison for, eventually. That whole situation. This is what we're talking about, folks. This whole movement out there. Government is bad. I mean, I'm the guy that calls out the government. I really expose everything, but I'm, I guess, more on a intellectual level, a objective level, right? I don't come out and say government is evil, get rid of all the government. No, we need government. In fact, we've never needed government more than ever to protect us against these fucking criminal mega corporations. But you see, the problem is, of course, as you can see with Trump, Trump's been bought off by Google, by Meta, by Microsoft, Amazon, you name it, Tesla, right? In fact, I just going to release a stream I did in October. I think it was early October. The one where I cover these fake attorneys promoting this New World Order shit, right, to try and get business. And I listened to the video, and I went ahead and predicted. I said, listen, Google is going to get off scot-free on their antitrust because Washington has been captured, you see. But so I call out the government. I exposed the U.S. government in America's financial apocalypse 20 years ago. Okay? But I'm not an extreme, delusional moron because I'm a research analyst. I'm not trying to sell you gold. I'm not trying to pitch this whole ideology. Evil government, right? Evil Fed. You understand? This whole libertarian, toxic, sociopathic narrative. The libertarian movement, and you can combine that with the Austrian economics, one of the same essentially. If you take a look at who started that, take a look at the individuals. And they're related to the same guys they're railing against. They're related to Wall Street and the Fed. It's called complete control. I've talked about this, folks. Complete control. You have no options. The mafia controls it all. They control the cryptocurrency industry. They control the precious metals. They control the fiat currency. So what's your choice? You understand? They control all sides of opposition. This is why, if you take a look, I've been mentioning this for years, take a look at the public discourse. Who's leading the discourse out there? Take a look at the people. Take a look. And in some cases, they have token minorities they'll position out there. But take a look at who they're interviewing. Oh, some of them, they have been cast aside. I'll give you a good example. I don't really know this person so much, but she's obviously a fraud. This Candace Owens. Oh, she's coming out and she's talking about, yeah. Who was she doing business with before she got canned? Ben Shapiro. You understand? She's a fraud. Same woman who promotes Andrew Tate. I mean, folks, I feel like I'm trying to reason with infants when I mention such obvious things as, for instance, if you don't instantly see that people like Andrew Tate are absolute frauds, there's something inherently wrong with your fucking brain that I don't think anything can fix. And if you don't realize that people who promote Andrew Tate are absolute frauds, once again, I think you're fucked. There's something wrong with you, honestly. The only thing you can do, I would say, other than pray to God and hope God will fix you, is to completely turn off the internet forever. Completely disembark. Okay? In fact, I mean, even if you're not mentally ill and or severely mentally disadvantaged, everyone should turn off the internet. Because I can tell you right now, there's very, very, very few people out there in the world who are able to not be swindled by all the disinformation out there. You have to be, I'll tell you right now, you have to be a top expert in many fields to see what's going on. That's pretty much how you're going to be able to navigate everything. Essentially, you're not, I mean, if you hear me point it out, yeah, okay, you'll be able to kind of sift through it a little bit. I'm just telling you, folks, because when people try to make assessments of things, what do? They take a look at everything out there and they form an opinion. It's a relative opinion, right? So if you're provided with complete horse shit, some of the horse shit doesn't smell as bad as the other horse shit, you're going to think that the horse shit that doesn't smell so bad is legit because you're looking at all the really stinky horse shit. So you think that horse shit that doesn't smell so bad is top-notch insight. In reality, it's horse shit. And you don't know that because you haven't come across legitimate, unbiased, objective insight because the platforms out there won't allow it. You understand? Because it's ad-based content, deception, disinfo, gatekeeping. Okay? And a person like myself, I'm not going to get anywhere. I mean, people aren't going to understand what I'm talking about. 99% of the people aren't. They're fucked already. I mean, folks, these are the same people. Just go down the hierarchy. Okay? Just go down the list. Think about people out there for years and years, and you still have many of them, who were fooled by Alex Jones. This is a very low-level fraudster. Think about that. Then they moved, some of them moved on after a while. They realized he's full of shit, but they still listen to him. It's, oh, yeah. And now you got a rebirth of Alex Jones through Tucker Carlson. You noticed that, right? Tucker Carlson, complete fraudster. This guy's a fucking danger. And then later on, the same people fell for Jordan Peterson and Peter Schiff and Ron Paul and so on and so forth. You understand? Show me, name me one fucking person out there who's legit. There are none. I've been looking for 20 fucking years. There are none. They don't exist. What I've learned about humanity is depressing, it's disgusting. And I don't think it was this way a few decades ago. I think the internet has completely poisoned everyone. There's also some other things, the cultural issue with capitalism. This whole mentality of doesn't matter how you make the money, right? Morale doesn't matter now. So everybody out there now There's no one out there saying, hey, wait a second here. No one calls anybody out. The only time they'll do it is to get views so they can get more clicks and advertisement money, so on and so forth. Show me what this ScamTube platform is going to look like, what the content's going to look like if there's no monetization. I know what it's going to look like because I saw what it looked like 20 years ago before Google bought it. Okay. Why do you think the establishment was drooling and peddling and pitching social media? You probably don't even remember that. 15 years ago, more than 15 years ago. I still remember it, like as if it were the weapons of mass destruction praise that everyone in the media kept repeating back in 2002 and 2003, claiming that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. Weapons of mass destruction. Repetition, folks. They know. You keep hearing something over and over again, you're going to fucking believe it. Same thing I remember hearing less than 10 years later. A few years later, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Facebook. Why do you think the cabal lined up to push Facebook? Because they realized it was a new platform to fuck people through their ad-based content horseshit and to brainwash people and to control people and to monitor people. Surveillance. I warned about it 15 years ago to the point I even wrote a three-part article. I predicted, I saw what was going on when Goldman Sachs was getting involved with Facebook, doing these private deals, and they were pumping up the valuation. I wrote an article covering social media, how it would be a disaster. And in part of that article, you can find it on my website, something like, Facebook, the CIA, media, something like that. And then I wrote a follow-up, the Goldman Sachs Facebook pump and dump or something like that. And I actually predicted, it's very, as all my stuff, it's very educational. I actually explained the whole IPO process and the venture capital process. And I actually predicted that Goldman Sachs was doing a pump and dump on Facebook. They were pumping up the IPO valuation so high, and it was going to be a complete fucking dump. Guess what? Within about 3 months, I think that it lost about 60% of its IPO value. 60 fucking percent. You can look it up, the article, and see for yourself. Okay, folks, the stuff I've done is unprecedented. Nobody can even touch me. Even just critiques that I give, not even strict research, are more informative than the best research in the world. And that article is a great example. Okay? Great example. But so you got Irwin Schiff. So he was making the rounds when Petey Boy was a kid. And Petey Boy got to go to the best schools, private schools. He grew up in Beverly Hills, right? Privileged family. Privileged in more ways than one. Money and, the other privilege that you can't talk about. And it ain't white privilege. That doesn't exist. That's a complete lie created by, people related to Peter as a way to trash white culture, white people, to make them sound evil and bad. You know how that goes. But he grew up in Beverly Hills. How did they afford this lifestyle? Well, his father was swindling people. Irwin Schiff's life was about making money, deceiving people. Right? I mean, I don't know the intent for sure. Either he was deceiving people intentionally for the money, or he was mentally ill. Right? That, it's got to be one or the other. You see? Was he so mentally ill that he believed his shit? You know, sometimes, I think a lot of times, if you're making a shitload of money, you're going to believe the narrative, aren't you? You know, kind of like Elon Musk and his EV, climate change bullshit, right? Yeah, you can believe it when you're making $1 trillion fucking dollars off of the scam. Nonetheless, Peter grew up going to private schools, right? Living the life. And his dad, remember folks, it's not how much you make, it's how you make it that counts. Not how much money you have, it's how you made that money. That's what really matters in life. So Peter lived a life, probably, upper income, middle income, or based upon his father's numerous books he sold, selling lies to people to convince them they didn't have to pay federal. I mean, think about that, folks. He was basically selling people a book that told them, hey, you read this book, I can save you hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime. It's a scam, a fraud, right? And this is the whole in the Fed, federal mafia, right? Federal mafia, all this nonsense. And then you have, Alex Jones is all over that. All these people, this whole little circle, big circle actually, of kingpins. This is what we're talking about with the whole fear porn, the people who are paranoid. The government is, let me tell you something. I don't like the U.S. government. They fucked me. The U.S. government shit on me after I'm trying to help the country and the people avoid the parasitic mafia that defrauded the world in the financial crisis. I'm the guy that wrote books that showed any fucking idiot how to make a fortune. If you read the books. Of course, you didn't read them probably because I was banned. You didn't know about them, did you? You could have made 3,000% buying puts on Fannie and Freddie and the banks, which is what I recommended, one of the strategies in my Cashing Into the Real Estate Bubble book. I'm the guy trying to help everybody, including the U.S. government, and I get shit on for uncovering the Wall Street fraud, the financial crisis. What happens to me? Well, the banking regulators, they try and fuck with me. They go to the feds and make false allegations, have me interrogated by the FDA terrorist division in fucking Irving, Texas. I've told the story 1 billion fucking times. That was in 2000, either late 2008 or, I think that was about late 2008. Okay? For those of you out there who don't know my fucking story, you better fucking learn it. Because you're not going to hear, you hear all these stories. Oh, this guy, he was canceled. And this, how come you're not hearing about my fucking story? Because all those stories you're hearing about people being canceled and all this, but that's a fucking lie. That's a complete horseshit. They're all frauds, folks. I'm giving you the real fucking deal. And by the way, FYI, I got a whole slew of motherfucking articles coming out on Dave Cullen, focusing on this fucking scammer. Well, I'm not going to call him a scammer at this point because I don't know that he has any monetary ties into his bullshit. It could be just ego stroking right now and delusion. But I believe he's certainly a con man. Got it on my website. I've got some blistering articles debunking his complete horseshit, his IRA crap. And I know, Dave, you're going to, well, he won't see the title list, but he's popped into the recent video that I posted. He's too afraid to say anything. These motherfuckers. Folks, none of these guys will ever go up live with me on a neutral platform. I've been asking Peter Schiff for fucking 10 years now. More than 10 years. 15 years. You go to all these guys. They won't debate me. You understand? Because they're afraid. These people work on perception. That's why this whole syndicate is huge. This disinfo syndicate. You can't break loose. They're all full of shit. You ever see Peter Schiff go up against someone legit? No, he doesn't. He goes up and is interviewed by some media fucking idiot that doesn't challenge anything he has to say. And we're going to go over that here in a minute. This is just the intro.